Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Empire of Light, starring Olivia Colman, Michael Ward, Colin Firth, and Toby Jones, directed by Sam Mendes. Now, I did go to the movie twice, and there was and despite all the negative reviews, let's see how I like this compared to the critics. Let's get into this movie. It's Christmas Day in 1980 as we see the patrons come into the Empire Cinema for the day, and as the night employees cleans up for the day, which got me engaged from the start of this movie from the get-go, and I like the music quite a bit by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross as it works magnificently as they close up for the day, and the cinematography by Roger Deakins is very great, and this is his best work with Skyfall, Blade Runner 2049, and 1917, as I really like the look of this movie as we get a POV from the manager Hillary of the Empire Theater, named Hillary, played by Olivia Colman, and I liked following her around and the life of cinema as well as her personal life. And doctors, as we learn, she was at a mental hospital and she wants to dance and she learns how to dance, as that is a good story. That is good storytelling. And this movie works great at storytelling. Hillary, while waiting in the break room before the day begins, goes into Donald Ellis's office as Donald, played by Colin Firth, wants to blow Hillary while his marriage isn't going well for him as the night time comes. Hillary is sitting near Donald and his wife, Brenda, at a restaurant as she leaves the restaurant, as that was an awkward that moment for sure. As we're introduced to Stephen, played by Michael Ward, the audience is introduced to Norman, played by Toby Jones, Neil, Janine, and others as Hillary shows them around, including a forbidden room where she and Stephen find a bird that can't fly because of its broken wing, and they wrap up something around it. And what did bother me was how they spend so much time up there than in the lobby, and I was wondering how the customers are going to get inside to enjoy their movie, as that did bother me from the get-go. And I enjoy being around these people as they're great character, or I should say good characters. Norman does a crossword puzzle while other employees come in and have some fun as it's New Year's Eve, as the day goes by with Stephen making fun of a man who can't walk straight, which is disrespectful and unprofessional, sure, as Hillary talks with him about as she's upset because she asked him to do one thing but gives to Janine instead, as she left a little early, and Donald wants to blow Hillary in his office again. And I don't like Colin Firth in this movie, as he's very forcing because his wife doesn't see him anymore, and he tells her about the South Coast premiere at the Empire as they drink to 1981. And the next thing you know, Stephen comes back to the theater to cheer for the new year with Hillary on the roof as she was about to leave for the night. And I love these scenes at the cinema as it makes the movie sing, but the outside scenes don't work for me as much. Steven suggests watching a movie at the cinema to Hillary while they play them, and Hillary says she's a boring person as they watch the fireworks from the roof of the cinema as the this feels magical in my opinion, while Hillary kisses Steven and she runs out like, what the fuck have I done? And they hang out together with Janine. And in my opinion, Olivia Colman is terrific in this movie, in my opinion. Much better here than in The Favorite and The Father, in my opinion. Stephen runs into a few racist motherfuckers calling him a monkey while Hillary watches, which is a scene I don't care for, as Donald wants to talk with Hillary about working the night shift, as she and Stephen see the bird and let it fly free, and the two scenes with the bird is adorable, as they smooch up a storm and sit down on the top floor while the theater is supposed to be open to the public, which made my nightmare come to life, as I brought it up before, but their chemistry is good at best. A rude patron named Mr. Cooper comes up to Stephen and makes a scene while having outside food in the theater, and he finishes it off and acts rude about it, and Stephen runs outside to the beach as the guy, I get the impression he was a racist motherfucker, while Stephen and Hillary walk to the beach and throw rocks in the water, which was beautiful to look at. Norman has Stephen carry some film reels to the projection room and explains how the projector works as it's old school. And I guess it's time for me to bring this up. I'm going to confess now. I've been working in a cinema for 16 years, and I prefer the film projectors more than the digital projectors because the digital sometimes breaks down way too easily. But I remember how you can put a film together with film, as that's old school in a great way, as I like those scenes quite a bit. Hillary and Steven go to the beach and have a good time until she has a meltdown in the middle of the beach when luckily there was no one there, as that was a gorgeously shot sequence. They get back home and the next day comes while Hillary and Steven have intercourse on the top floor, and Neil figures out about Hillary and Steven as a couple, and they're in an awkward situation where they don't have a choice but to break it off. While Steven is painting, and the next scene you know, Neil tells Steven about Hillary's rough time as she was in the mental hospital. And the problem is show, don't tell, as that is what the movie did. And I mean tell, but it doesn't show. And I don't know how to explain it any better than that. And he goes to Hillary's flat, which means apartment, and gets no response while she's taking a personal holiday. And for an actor whom I don't know very well, Michael Ward does a good job in this movie. We get to the South Coast premiere film venue, and Hillary bumps into Steven while at the cinema, and Donald introduces the film venue, as does Hillary, and she makes an ass out of herself and embarrasses Donald, as he has no choice but to fire her ass from the cinema, and she says she needs help while Hillary confesses to Brenda she fucked her husband, and the scene was sentimental to the point Hillary does not need help, which is a fucked up scene, sure, as the movie is unfortunately falling apart. Steven goes to Hillary's flat as she's haunting and scaring the shit out of me, as she's fucking insane. But it's great acting by Olivia Colman while the cops and mental hospital workers, including Rosemary Bates, come by the flat and to get inside and take her to the insane asylum while Steven is hiding, which is a scene I don't really care for. We pick up months later as Steven and Norman test the film with Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor. I don't remember the name of the movie, so please forgive me. And later that day, he comes home with his mother, who's a hospital worker named Delia, as the next day, Steven serves Ruby, who was an old friend of his, at the concession stand as he becomes a manager at the theater, and they hang out together as their chemistry is absolutely sweet while he bumps into Hillary while she is sitting on a bench and tells her Donald left the theater, as Neil told her already and they keep in touch that and to come back to the cinema, and she does come back to work at the cinema while Steven tells the truth about how Hillary acted at the premiere film venue, and he told her that she came off like a hero to him, and he tells her the co-workers have a surprise party for them, and suddenly while celebrating they hear a mob of racist motherfuckers riding by the cinema, and they try to break in, and cops get their asses, and by there I'm talking about the racists, while Steven is knocked out and is taken to the hospital thanks to Hillary, which is very sad. And this scene is just so fucking brutal right out of the blue. While waiting at the hospital, Steven's mother Delia talks with Hillary about if she was the one who went to the beach with him one day, as it didn't feel like a great first impression, as she stops coming by because she's afraid of the first impression, while Norman tells her she needs to visit him and do live with like Norman and don't live like Norman did, as he talks about how he lost his son and Christopher, who doesn't want to talk to him because he ran away and he can't remember why. And she does end up visiting Steven at the hospital while Delia is there, and she talks again with Hillary about how he was asking her because she cheers him up, which is a sweet scene, and she comes to the cinema and asks Norman to let her watch a film, and she experiences the magic of movies, and this scene was tremendously to look at on, and the way Olivia Colman's face looked when she experiences the movie works great. Hillary and Stephen get together and he tells her he's going to college at Bristol as an architecture when he earlier said that earlier in the film he couldn't give up, as he tells her he leaves the next day and comes home to his mother, as Delia I should call her. I'm sorry, I just keep forgetting that's her name. As she throws a goodbye party with her and Ruby, and he toasts to the future. And as he talks about to leave, he says his goodbyes to Hillary, and the climax is sad but happy because he goes off to college and they'll miss each other to death. As this ending had a good heart, but I wish it ended with him saying goodbye to the Empire Cinema. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 6.1 out of 10. The characters are good to be around with, except for Colin Firth, as he felt too demanding. And I don't find the outside scenes working as well as the cinema scenes. And that, to me, is what makes this movie sing. Olivia Colman delivers her best performance, in my opinion, even better than The Favorite and The Father, which are both films I did not like, as the other actors are good in this movie, and as it's beautifully shot and the music works very well. The movie reminded me of my workplace when old school film prints were put together, as this is a good movie, not a great movie, as it falls apart for the second half of the movie. And fans of cinema like myself or Christopher Nolan or Quentin Tarantino might like it just fine, like I did, and it's not as bad as what critics say it is. So yeah, this is a recommendation. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for going through Sam Mendes' autobiography of work. And until then, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.